Hey everyone, today we're going to be covering how to play Unstable Unicorns made by Unstable Games in the last couple years. So it is one of the newer games out there, sort of, in a way. Anyway, this one says build a unicorn army, betray your friends, unicorns are your friends now. That's one of its big taglines. So this game here has 135 cards and a rulebook of course, and it is designed from 2 to 8 players, on average 30 to 60 minutes, and ages is 14 and over. Alright, so I'll actually start by going ahead and opening the content so you can see what's in the game, and I will also be discussing the setup for all of you on how that works. Simply pop it open, and you'll see a couple things. The rulebook is one thing, and it's actually a little bit lengthy in some ways, but obviously I'm not going to be reading this for this video because I'm instead going to be demonstrating to you in this video how to actually play, so I'm going to put that aside. Next thing, you'll see 2 sides here. Honestly, it doesn't matter, I just like to go ahead and flip it over, dump all the cards down, and then lift, and that's how that works. Especially because my specific game here, I've actually used card sleeves. So, see? With card sleeves, sometimes cards actually end up getting stuck sometimes. Gotta be careful. But the reason why I do that is because, once again, I use card sleeves. Card sleeves obviously are designed to protect the card, and if this game gets a lot of play, you definitely want to go ahead and use card sleeves to protect. So that's why I just go ahead and, do that with sleeves. So anyway, you'll actually see a couple things. The majority of the cards are going to actually be black in color. Just by kind of organizing this, slowly you'll be able to see that almost every single card is black by color. Now let me go ahead and organize this. Okay, so these are the 2 different piles. The amount of black cards is really high compared to the amount of white cards. So these are all black cards. And what you want to do is basically grab all these cards together and shuffle them like I actually ended up doing. And then what you want to do with the white cards is see these, because there's 2 different kinds of cards. The very first types of cards are going to be these reference cards. Optionally, each player can get one of these. It's up to players if they want to, but if the players already know the game really well, they probably don't need one. This is not actually part of the game itself, it's just a reference card. So players are allowed to have one of these next to them at any point if they would like to. I'm of course going to go ahead and put this away because I don't actually need to be talking about this. I'm instead going to be showing you how to play the game. The next set of white cards, which are all these, are going to be the baby unicorn cards right here. Now, there's a pretty decent amount of them, but nowhere near, of course, the amount of black cards. But all you are doing is getting all the baby unicorn cards and putting them face up near the deck. The entire deck is right here, and I'm going to go ahead and place that right there. Okay, now depending on the number of players, obviously we're going to be dealing some cards to each player depending on how many players there are. Each player receives 5 cards for their starting hand. So for the sake of this video, I'm going to be demonstrating a 3-player game by dealing out 5 cards to each player. Okay, once each player has their 5 cards, as you can see, 3 sample hands. Players of course can look at the cards in their hand, but you may not of course look at any other cards in other players' hands, so you should be keeping yours a secret. I'll be explaining all these as we go, but the other thing that you want to go ahead and do is baby unicorns. Every single player gets 1 baby unicorn. Now, everyone gets to choose. You can just simply, go ahead and reveal them all because these are always going to be face up. These are not any different at all in terms of gameplay. They all have the same exact effect, which is listed down here. So let's say, one player takes this baby unicorn, another player takes this baby unicorn, another one takes this baby unicorn. Okay, so those are the 3 different locations of the players. Now I say location because you do have to designate a spot in front of you, and that's going to be your stable. So just imagine these hands are actually not here because they're obviously in the player's hands, so these would be not here, and then these would be not here. So this is one stable, this is another stable, and this is another stable. Each person gets 1 stable. Anytime you play cards in front of you, you're putting them into your stable. So all of us already have 1 unicorn here in our stable. But overall, this is the entire setup. So now let's move on to how to actually play the game. Okay, so as far as playing the game as well as the purpose of it, well, the way that you win the game is by getting the certain number of unicorns in your stable. I say the certain number because depending on the number of players, that can actually change a little bit. If you are playing between 2 to 5 players, then you actually need 7 unicorns to win. But if you're using 6 to 8 players in your game, you'll actually be needing 6 unicorns to win. Because this here is a 3-player game, this means that the first player to reach 7 unicorns is going to be the winner of this game. How do you reach 7 unicorns? Well, it's pretty simple. Let's talk about how to play the game now. Okay, so the game is comprised of turns, and once you all decide who goes first, either randomly or through another specific means, totally up to you, then each turn actually has 4 different phases, and I'll be demonstrating each of the 4 different phases. The very first phase of the turn is the beginning of the turn phase. The beginning of the turn phase honestly doesn't really do much unless a card specifically activates an effect at the beginning of your turn. You'll easily be able to notice this by cards that say, like for example, if this card is in your stable at the beginning of your turn, if it says specifically at the beginning of your turn, then you know this is the beginning of the turn phase, which is part 1 of your turn. So let's say this card was face up in our stable, which I'll talk about how to put cards in your stable. Then we get to the effect that says, if this card is in your stable at the beginning of your turn, you may sacrifice a card, then destroy a card. However, if you make it to phase 2 of your turn, you can no longer use this card's effect for that turn because it's no longer the beginning of your turn. So that's the first one, but I'm going to take this back because we haven't actually played this yet. The next thing, meaning part 2 of your turn, is that you're going to be drawing 1 card from the deck, which is right here. So all I'm going to do is draw 1 card, and that was this, and you add it to your hand. So now, I'm actually going to have 6 cards in the hand, and that's it for part 2 of the phase. Pretty simple, right? Moving on to part 3, this is where things get more interesting. You get to play any 1 card from your hand into your stable or any other player's stable. I say this because it's important, as certain cards will benefit you if you put them in your stable, but other cards will hurt you if you put them in your stable because they're meant to hurt the opponents instead. So if we take a look at the cards here, we get to choose any one of these cards and choose a stable. Now, when I said that the first player to actually reach 7 unicorns wins, only unicorn cards count. Unicorn cards are divided into 3 different types of cards, and you can actually take a look at your reference card for this if you would like to see the different types of cards. Basically, any card that has this unicorn horse symbol is actually a unicorn card, which means that if you get any 7 combination of magical unicorns, basic unicorns, or baby unicorns, you win the game. You can have 7 magicals, 0 basics, 0 babies. You can have 4 magicals, 2 basics, 1 baby. You can have 0 magicals, 0 basics, 7 babies, although that might seem pretty impossible. But you get the point. Any combination of 7 unicorns from magical unicorns, basic unicorns, or baby unicorns makes you win the game. You can always see what type of card it is by looking at this right over here. There's always going to be a colored font right above the effects section of the card. This one says basic unicorn card. If we flip to the next one, this one says upgrade card. The next one says magical unicorn card, followed by downgrade card, and then basic unicorn, and the last one, another magic card, and that's it. So we get to choose any one of these. Keep in mind, I already have one. So if I were to play, let's say, this basic unicorn, I get to then choose which stable. Obviously, in this case, would you really want to play this at another person's stable and do them a unicorn? I don't think so. The smart move is to play this card in your stable, because now you have 2 unicorns, only 5 more, and you win the game. However, that's just for unicorns. Let's go ahead and play this. If I went ahead and played a magical unicorn, same rule applies. However, magical unicorns actually have effects. Basic unicorns don't have effects. They just have a little bit of funny flavor text kind of thing, but nothing really to impact the game. Magical unicorns, they'll say, if this card would be sacrificed or destroyed, you may discard a card instead. So if I were to play this magical unicorn here, I now have 2 unicorns, because again, magical unicorns do count. Because again, magical unicorns do count for this 7 unicorn thing that we're trying to reach here to win the game. However, keep in mind that this thing now has an effect that if it were to be sacrificed or destroyed, I can discard a card instead from my hand. I'll be talking about what discard, destroy, and sacrifice means in just a little bit. But let me explain the last option for phase 3 of your turn. Let's say I were to not play this instead, and I was like, you know what? I'm not really feeling any of these cards. What you can do for phase 3 of your turn, instead of playing a card, you can draw another card. This means that you can essentially draw up to 2 cards on the same turn if you draw the one required for phase 2, as well as not play anything for phase 3 and instead draw another card. Totally up to you if you want to do that, but just know the option is there. However, let me just put this card back. I know that's cheating, but I'm just kind of demonstrating things because I'm going to go ahead and play this card right here and say that's what I actually ended up doing. So that's what I did, that's my turn, and that's it for that part. Moving on to phase 4 now. Phase 4 is a little interesting. because it basically says that in phase 4, it's the end of turn phase. There are some card effects that say end of turn, but not very often. It's incredibly rare. But the other thing about the end of turn phase is that you must discard until the number of cards in your hand does not exceed the hand limit. Now, what is the hand limit, you may ask? The hand limit by normal standards is actually 7 cards. If your hand has more than 7 cards by the end of your turn, you must discard cards until you have 7 cards or less. Now I'm going to get to the next thing, discarding and the discard pile. Basically, any cards that are discarded or destroyed or sacrificed typically are going to be going to the discard pile. Discard pile is just created by the players. There's just one discard pile for everyone. You just get to choose. I like to put it next to the deck. Let's say that's the discard pile, you know, so that card goes right there. Any other cards that are discarded in future turns or destroyed or sacrificed will go there in the discard pile. But I'm going to go ahead and take this back, of course, because that is an illegal move since I just discarded it for no reason, just to show it off. But that's how that works. The other thing I want to quickly talk about is these different terms and what that means. So you'll commonly hear terms such as discard, destroy, sacrifice, and even steal. These things are pretty obvious to people who have played a lot of games before, but not so obvious to those who are a little bit newer to card games or board games. Basically what destroy does is that it moves a card from another person's stable into the discard pile. So if I had a card that said I get to destroy a card, then I can essentially choose a card on another person's stable and then move it into the discard pile. It's that simple. The next thing is sacrifice. Sometimes you will actually see the term sacrifice, and the glitter bomb card is actually a good example because it has both sacrifice and destroy. Let's demonstrate this card. If this card is in your stable at the beginning of your turn, you may sacrifice a card and destroy a card. Let's say this card was in our stable and it was our turn. At the beginning of our turn specifically. Alright, you know, at the beginning of our turn, I want to use this effect. So what does this say? Well, let's read it one more time. Sacrifice a card and destroy a card. I'm going to get to do it. Alright, so I'm going to sacrifice a card. Sacrificing cards basically means that you're getting rid of cards in your stable, which is the same thing as destroying cards in your opponent's stable. So just know, these two things technically do the same thing, but the game does differentiate the term, even though in the end it's the same result. Sacrificing is moving a card from your stable to the discard pile. Destroying is moving a card from your opponent's stable to the discard pile. Same thing. So if I was going to use this glitter bomb card, and let's say I had, like, you know, this basic unicorn here, I get to say, alright, beginning of my turn, I'm going to go in and use this here, so I'm going to sacrifice this card, and then I get to destroy a card. I'm going to choose to destroy, let's say, you know, somebody else had, you know, another unicorn like this. I'm going to destroy this one that you had over here. So once again, destroying and sacrificing does not mean getting rid of cards in the hand. That specifically is discarding. Destroying and sacrificing is from the stable to the discard pile. Talking about discarding again, I'll officially define what it means. Discarding means moving a card from your hand into the discard pile. Literally that simple. A lot of card effects do this, how they say, you know, you have to discard a card or something, so just simply get one and put it on there. And the fourth and final term that I want to say is steal. A few cards do let you steal a card, and that's pretty simple. Just take a card from another person's stable, move it to your stable. That's what stealing means. The very last thing I will say is baby unicorns have a very special rule, because as you can see, the nursery is here face up. And this is why I wasn't actually demonstrating sacrificing or destroying for using babies, because that would have been too confusing. But if we took a look at babies and what they say, it says, if this card will be sacrificed, destroyed, or returned to your hand, return it to the nursery instead. All babies have the same exact effect. So what does that mean? This means that baby unicorns can only exist on stables or in the nursery. Baby unicorns cannot exist in the discard pile, they cannot exist in the normal deck, and they cannot exist in the hand as well. So for example, if I use this glitter bomb card, and I was like, you know what, I'll sacrifice this baby unicorn. Normally, it would have to go over here into the discard pile, but that's an illegal move. Baby unicorns can't exist there. Instead, because it's saying it goes to the nursery, I'm sacrificing it, putting it in the nursery. I want to destroy this one by using the glitter bomb's effect. Well, guess what? Normally it would go here, but now I'm going to put it there. Same thing, it's just that it's that one big rule, you know, that baby unicorns have to exist in a nursery if they are not in a stable. Before I wrap this up, I do want to go in and just quickly talk about a couple other cards, because I talked about baby unicorns, I talked about basic unicorns, which are this color. I talked about magical unicorns, which also count for the unicorn count, but they have special effects, but I didn't talk about a couple other ones. Magic cards are labeled green. Magic cards typically are not going to actually reside in the stable because you simply place the card by, activating it or whatever you want to say, and then it goes to the discard pile because it can't exist in a stable. For example, if we read this card, it says, bring a unicorn card from the discard pile into your stable. Okay, so let's say I go ahead and activate this. I'm going to activate Kiss of Life. All I'm doing is moving this to the discard pile and activating the effect of it. So it says that I get to bring a unicorn card from the discard pile into my stable. So by looking at the discard pile, I got two options, I got the basic unicorn and also this magical unicorn by using the effect of this Kiss of Light. So I'm going to go ahead and add this one here, and then these are going to go back into the discard pile, and it's that simple. There we go. The next card that I want to show you is this, the downgrade card. Downgrade cards do actually stay on a stable, and this one here says all of your unicorns are considered pandas. Cards that affect unicorn cards do not affect your pandas. It's a nice little workaround here, buddy. You get to choose who you want to. Now, even though it's a downgrade card, it could actually benefit you. The next card that I already kind of talked about is an upgrade card. It's the same exact concept as a downgrade card. It's just that in most cases you want to play upgrade cards to yourself and downgrade cards to the opponent. A couple exceptions like this one, like I said, this one technically can also benefit you. You just have to be a little smart about this and know, what's good and what's bad. And the very last card is the Nay card, which is an instant card. These are red. Nay cards are the only cards you can play when it's not your turn. You can also play them on your turn, but you can't play other cards when it's not your turn, except the Nay card. The Nay card essentially works as a counter. As it says here, play this card when another player tries to play a card. Stop their card from being played and send it to the discard pile. Okay, so for example, let's say I look through their hand and they're like, you know what, I'm going to play this shake-up card that says shuffle this card, your hand, and your discard pile into the deck and draw 5 cards. So it's kind of like a mulligan sort of thing, I'm going to play this. Let's do it. Well, actually, I'm going to play this Nay card. So nope, I'm going to nay it. As a counter, it stops the effect, and that's that. However, a Nay card also works on a Nay card. So I can nay the Nay, and now I just stopped your Nay. So my magic card does actually work, which means I get to go in and shuffle everything there and, then draw. I'm not going to do that though. But hopefully that makes sense. That is all different types of cards. We have baby unicorns, basic unicorns, magical unicorns, upgrade cards, downgrade cards, magic cards, as well as the instant cards. And that is it for all of the different types of cards. Hopefully this video actually helped you, and that's essentially how the game works. You just simply keep playing until you reach 7 unicorns, or in the case of more players, like I said, 6 unicorns, and that's it. So if you found this video to be helpful as well as enjoyable, I would encourage you to go and leave a like, comment, subscribe, and turn on notifications. It does help me out and lets me know that you did in fact like this video and you found it helpful. Bye-bye everyone. Have a great and of course a fantastic day.